The night it all began, my stepmother didn't scream or slam anything. She issued her verdict like a judge who'd already decided my fate. She stood in the garage doorway, with rain slicing behind her like strands of broken glass. Her face didn't tighten, her voice didn't shake. She simply stared straight at me and said, almost conversationally, "Pack your things. You're done here." There was no confusion about what she meant. No countdown. No chance to argue. And my father, my only surviving parent, just hovered behind her with his hands buried in his pockets, shoulders curved inward like he was bracing against a storm only he could feel. He didn't defend me, didn't ask for an explanation.
This is a very serious matter.
It was as if losing me
I
weighed
understand.
less than the effort it would take to raise his head. So I left. A duffel bag that barely held my clothes, shoes soaked from the driveway, and a quiet promise burning in my chest that I didn't dare say out loud yet. This won't be the end of me. Anyone who met me years later, at the office with floor-to-ceiling windows, the awards gleaming behind my desk, my team moving with sharp, confident purpose, would never imagine the girl I used to be. They would never picture the kid who slept with the lights on because silence felt predatory. They couldn't fathom the version of me who carefully folded laundry just to avoid being noticed, or who rationed cereal because excess wasn't in the budget. Before the agency, before stability, before I learned how to use my voice instead of hiding from the echo of it, there was grief. My mother's death cracked our world open in a single morning.
This is a very serious matter.
One moment she was humming
understand.
quietly over a skillet of pancakes, Motown humming low and warm. The next she was gone, taken by something none of us could see or predict. The house, once loud and lived in, felt too big for the two people who remained. My father and I tried to carry on, microwaving dinners she would have never allowed, folding laundry we never folded properly, pretending we weren't drowning in the void she left behind. For a while, it really was just him and me. He'd come home smelling of motor oil and exhaustion, ruffle my hair, and tell me I was tougher than I looked. I believed him because I had to. But then he met Frances. And everything, the warmth, the rhythm, the sense of being known, began to warp. What happened when Frances walked into our lives wasn't sudden destruction, it was erosion. Slow.
This is a very
strategic,
serious matter.
Intentional. Frances entered our lives
understand.
the way a draft slips under a door. Quiet at first, almost unnoticeable, until suddenly you're cold without knowing when the warmth disappeared. She'd been a waitress at the diner near Dad's auto shop, always wearing that practiced half-smile that never reached her eyes. Her kindness came packaged too neatly, like she'd rehearsed it before stepping into our home. Their wedding was so fast it felt like time tripped over itself. One afternoon Dad mentioned he'd been seeing someone, and within weeks, she was moving in with 3 suitcases and a cat that immediately claimed my mother's old rocking chair like it was owed to her. I kept waiting for my father to pause, to second-guess, to remember the life we'd had before. But he didn't. He held the door open for her, as though the decision had been made long before I was consulted. At first, Frances tried to perform sweetness, organizing the pantry with labels, rearranging furniture that had been in place since before I was born, humming while she scrubbed the kitchen counters. But even her humming felt like she was marking territory. Her smile tightened when she thought I wasn't watching, disappearing the moment my father left the room. Her real personality emerged slowly, like a photograph developing in harsh chemicals. She took over the finances before I even realized my father had surrendered them. Bills, receipts, grocery lists. She guarded them like precious artifacts. Every dollar in the house had to be justified. She circled unnecessary items in red pen, yogurt that wasn't on sale, laundry detergent from the wrong aisle, even the off-brand cereal I liked because it reminded me of mornings with my mom. The house became a place of surveillance. Frances monitored everything.
This is a very serious matter.
Lights left on, seconds spent in the shower, the amount of milk in the jug. And Dad, worn out from back-to-back shifts, didn't push back. Maybe he thought letting her manage the numbers meant she cared. Maybe it was easier to avoid conflict. Or maybe he didn't realize that choosing convenience meant unchoosing me. I tried. God, I tried. I cleaned the kitchen without being asked, kept my voice soft, folded my clothes with crisp corners, handed over my babysitting money like it was some kind of rent. Every A on my report card felt like a plea. See me. Value me. Keep me. But Frances would tap my grades with a nail-polished and expensive shellac and say, "Good. We'll need this for when you're out of here someday." The warning was there long before the exile. But the moment that truly exposed what she wanted, what she planned, came when she started erasing
This is a
the
very
last traces
serious
of my
matter.
mother. Losing my mother felt like a wound that
understand.
never fully closed. So the few items of hers that remained, her favorite hoodie, the rocking chair she used to read to me in, the lavender-scented blanket, became anchors I clung to quietly. They weren't just objects. They were proof that she had existed, that I had once been loved in a way that didn't demand repayment. Frances saw those things differently. To her, they were clutter, remnants of a life she wasn't part of, shadows she didn't want competing with her presence. She never said it outright at first, but she'd let her eyes linger on the rocking chair like it offended her. She'd move my mother's things around unnecessarily, placing them in corners where they didn't belong, as if trying to make them look out of place in their own home. And then one afternoon, they simply vanished. I came home to find an empty space where the rocking chair had always sat.
This is a very
serious matter. The room felt wrong, lighter in a way that made my chest ache.
I understand.
My father was in the driveway, helping Frances load something into the trunk of her car. A folded quilt, a framed photo, then the unmistakable curve of the rocking chair's backrest. I froze. My voice barely broke through the air. "Why are you taking that?" Frances didn't even look embarrassed. "We're clearing out things that don't serve this house anymore," she said, brushing off my question like it was a fly. My father didn't meet my eyes. He lifted the last box, closed the trunk, and gave a small nod, as though agreeing to something he hadn't even thought through. That tiny motion snapped something inside me, a quiet fracture I didn't have the words to describe yet. Watching him stand with her, choosing her comfort over my memories, felt more brutal than anything Frances had said or done. Still I stayed. I kept believing that maybe if I tried harder, if I was good enough, quiet enough, useful enough, the warmth in the house would return. That Dad would remember who I'd been to him before grief turned him into a stranger. But Frances didn't want peace, she wanted power. And the older I got, the more she tightened her grip. By 13, the house was run like a strict diner shift. Lists, rules, curfews, endless chores. I understood then that she wasn't building a family. She was building a hierarchy, and she needed me at the bottom of it. The girl I was kept hoping things would settle, but storms don't calm when the person steering them needs the chaos. And things only got worse when money, her favorite battlefield, became the weapon she used to control everything. If love had been the currency of our home, Frances would have been bankrupt. But money was where she thrived. She treated every dollar like a soldier she commanded, and I was the enemy wasting her troops. What started as subtle comments became full-blown interrogations under the kitchen light, as if the grocery store receipts were crime scene reports. She'd hold them up between two fingers, the paper trembling not from her hand but from the tension she manufactured. Circling the most harmless items in angry loops, apples, yogurt, a box of off-brand cereal, she'd look at me with the disbelief of someone discovering a betrayal. "Extras aren't in the budget," she'd say in a tone that made extras sound like sin. My father would be beside her, picking at a loose thread on his sleeve, eyes darting to the floor like he wasn't allowed to look at me without permission. Each time he stayed silent, the message carved itself deeper into me: "You're on your own." Even small things were rationed. A missing dollar from my babysitting earnings led to a lecture about responsibility.
I understand.
A long shower earned a complaint about the water bill. A forgotten coupon became a personal failure. Every interaction felt like a negotiation for basic existence. School, which used to be my safe place, became another bargaining tool. When I told her I needed a $3 piece of poster board for a science project, she raised an eyebrow as if I'd asked for a gold bar. Earn it. So I did. I mowed a neighbor's lawn in the Florida heat, sweat soaking my shirt, grass sticking to my ankles. I earned $5, proud of myself. But when I handed it over, she plucked most of the bills from my hand for the household, sliding them away before I could blink. She returned a single dollar like she was bestowing charity. Birthdays faded into nothing. No candles, no cards, no mention. One year, desperate for something that resembled celebration, I used babysitting money to buy a brownie mix. I'd baked them carefully, sharing them with neighbors who knew my name better than my own father remembered it. Frances took one bite and immediately complained about the sugar content, and then asked if I'd paid for the mix myself. Still, part of me held on. I convinced myself that if I stayed steady, patient, polite, something would shift. That my father would see. That she would soften. But some people don't bend. They harden. The house didn't just feel cold. It felt engineered to keep me small. And then came the sentence, the quiet, razor-sharp remark, that finally revealed her real plan for me. The day everything shifted didn't arrive with shouting or thrown objects. It slipped in quietly, just one offhand sentence that sliced cleaner than any argument ever could. I had come home holding a history test marked with a bright red 98%.
I know, I understand.
The kind of achievement that used to earn fridge space back when my mother was alive. I walked into the living room hopeful, clutching that paper like it was evidence of something good. Dad was sunk into the recliner, half asleep, while Frances perched on the armrest flipping through paint swatches for what used to be my mother's sewing nook. The room already felt different. Her colors, her choices, her presence tucked into every corner. I stood there, waiting to be acknowledged. She didn't even look up. Instead, she said it like she was commenting on the weather. One income, one child. That's the plan. You're getting older. Time to start preparing to be on your own. No hesitation. No softness. Just a declaration that I no longer fit into the blueprint of her household. My father lifted his gaze as if he wanted to speak.
This is a very
But
serious
then,
matter.
like a faulty switch, he shut
I know,
down.
I understand.
His mouth closed, his shoulders sagged, and he let the moment pass without a word. That silence was louder than anything she said. I stood there with the test paper still in my hand. A near-perfect score. A tiny triumph. Something I had worked for. And to them, it meant nothing. Because I meant nothing. That was the moment something in me settled. Not broken, clarified. The truth I'd avoided for years finally stepped out of the shadows. I wasn't a daughter in that house. I was a line item on a budget she resented. I didn't leave that night. Most people think turning points means slamming doors and storming out. But real breaking points move differently. They live in the bones long before any action follows. Once that shift happened inside me, the house felt less like a prison and more like a temporary
This is a
stop.
very serious
A launching
matter.
point. A place I was already
I know, I
halfway gone
understand.
from, even while I still slept under its roof. I started planning quietly. I worked extra shifts, hid my tip money in a coffee can beneath a loose floorboard, and stayed late at school to print scholarship forms. I learned to navigate the home like a ghost, moving silently, avoiding battles, letting Frances think she was winning while I was building a future she couldn't touch. She believed she was tightening the leash. In reality, she was cutting the last threads tying me to that house. But even my secret planning couldn't prepare me for what came next, the discovery that forced me to accelerate my escape. My quiet plan had been unfolding steadily, hours at my part-time job, scholarship essays typed in the dim glow of a school computer lab, college brochures hidden inside novels Frances would never think to open.
This is a
I
very
played the part she
serious matter.
expected. Compliant.
I know,
small,
I understand.
Forgettable. It was easier to prepare an escape when the warden believed the prisoner was content. But everything sped up the day Frances found what she wasn't meant to see. I had tucked a small stack of community college pamphlets deep inside my backpack, wrapped in a sweater. She must have been snooping. She always denied it, but she had a talent for discovering exactly what she had no business touching. She stood in the doorway of my room, waving the brochures like smuggled contraband. "This," she hissed, the pamphlets fluttering like frightened birds. "This fantasy is not in the budget. Be realistic, Kayla." My father hovered in the hall behind her, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always did when he was uncomfortable. He didn't ask where I wanted to go, or why the brochures mattered, or how long I'd been planning. He just looked tired.
This
That
is a
kind
very
of tired that
serious matter.
excuses everything, even
I
neglect.
know, I understand.
A week later, she found the envelope of tip money I'd saved from months of sweaty, late-night shifts at the fast food place. She didn't ask if it was mine. She didn't ask what it was for. She held it between two fingers like it belonged to her by default. "This'll help with the car insurance," she announced, already sliding the bills into her purse. My father watched that moment, watched it and said nothing. That was when the truth crystallized. If I waited for 18, I wouldn't make it to 18. Not emotionally. Not safely. The house wasn't just cold anymore. It was dangerous to the life I was trying to build. Every dream I had was something Frances needed to crush. Every step I tried to take forward was something she needed to redirect. So I pushed my plan into high gear. I worked more shifts, slipping my uniform into my backpack each morning.
This is a very serious matter.
So she wouldn't suspect how much time I spent earning my own independence. I hid my savings in multiple spots. An envelope under the loose floorboard, another taped inside an old binder. I even wrote a letter to my Aunt Dana, careful, factual, understated, just enough to hint that I might need a lifeline soon. Dana didn't know how bad things were, but she always sensed when something was off. Her steady, warm presence, like a porch light left on through a storm, made her the only adult I trusted to reach for if everything collapsed. I didn't realize how soon I would need her, because the night Frances finally ordered me out of the house wasn't a shock. It was the moment I'd been preparing for all along. The night Frances kicked me out didn't feel like an explosion. It felt like a door quietly clicking shut after years of warning creaks. By then, I wasn't naive enough to expect compassion.
This is a
I'd already
very
felt the
serious matter.
shift, like she was pushing me closer and closer to an edge she expected me to tumble off of helplessly. But I wasn't the helpless girl she believed I was. It happened in the garage. Rain hammered the driveway like impatient fingers, drumming on a table, wind rattling the metal shelves. Frances stood framed in the doorway, her silhouette sharp and unmoving. She thrust a duffel bag at me, my things stuffed inside without care, and then a bus ticket slapped against my palm. "One way," she said. "Your aunt knows you're coming. Leave tonight." Her tone carried no rage, only certainty, as if this wasn't cruelty but an overdue administrative task. My father lingered behind her, hands in his pockets. Posture identical to the night he let her throw away my mother's rocking chair. His silence wasn't unfamiliar. But for the first time, it didn't sting.
This is a very
serious matter. It simply confirmed what I had already accepted.
I know, I understand.
He wasn't going to save me because he had stopped seeing me long ago. So I stepped into the rain with nothing but a bag, a ticket, and the quiet fire of preparation in my chest. The bus ride was long and dim, streetlights passing like slow-moving stars. But where another girl might have felt fear, I felt something startling, almost disorienting relief. I wasn't being abandoned, I was being released. Aunt Dana opened the door in flannel pajamas, hair thrown up messily, eyes wide with worry. Without asking for explanations, without demanding details, she stepped aside and wrapped her arms around me in the kind of hug that said I didn't have to earn my place. "You're staying as long as you need," she whispered. That night marked the beginning, not the end of everything. Over the next decade, I built myself from the ground up.
This is a very
Community
serious
college
matter.
Classes, marketing gigs that paid an experience more than money, nights drafting proposals at a tiny kitchen table. Bit by bit, brick by brick, the life I live now was constructed by the girl nobody fought for because she finally learned to fight for herself. By 32, I had a team, a thriving agency, and a view of the water from my office window. I thought the past was behind me, but the past doesn't knock. It barges in. The day my receptionist said, "Your family is here," I felt the same cold air from years ago sweep the room. Only this time, I wasn't the powerless girl they left behind. I was the woman they never expected I'd become.